Phobia, a persistent, excessive, unrealistic fear of an object, person, animal, activity, or situation. When looking back to Halloween Horror Nights 31's house, Bugs Eaten Alive, one would think Universal Orlando was creating a house to tap into anepophobia, the fear of insects, or to a lesser degree arachnophobia, which is the fear of spiders. What if I told you a third phobia was in the mix, trypophobia, the fear of a cluster of small holes? This is a complete retrospective on the 2022 Halloween Horror Nights Haunted House Bugs Eaten Alive. On August 18th, 2022, Universal Orlando announced on the Halloween Horror Nights Twitter page a new haunted house with the name Bugs Eaten Alive, and a small synopsis of the house that follows. Quote, while touring a 1950s home of the future, you'll be swarmed by hordes of revolting insects as they worm their way into your deepest fears, growing and mutating into unimaginable horrors, end quote. One thing I find very interesting is the time window this house was announced in. August 18th was only 15 days until opening night. This year, Universal flipped the script and announced the original houses first, such as Slaughter Cinema 2 and Goblin's Feast. At this point, we already know 7 out of the suspected 10 houses in June, which is all the original houses in one intellectual property house, A Quiet Place. On a different note, this would be the first bug-related house Halloween Horror Nights has done since Fear Factor in 2002. Let me know if you want to see a retrospective video on that house as well. Unlike Fear Factor being set in present day, Bugs Eaten Alive was set in the 1950s at a pavilion hosted by BZCon Industries. A new gas was being showcased that would control the temperature of homes and kill bugs with a pine scent. This gas would make bugs age faster rather than instantly killing them, which made it different. Unfortunately, this would backfire at the pavilion. The gas malfunctions and ends up causing bugs in the test to escape and grow larger. This would then result the bugs laying their eggs inside of unsuspecting BZCon's attendees. Bugs Eaten Alive was located in Sprung Tent 2. This, along with Sprung Tent 1, are hurricane-proof tents that were built for Halloween Horror Nights Suite 16 in 2006. The queue for Bugs Eaten Alive officially started in World Expo next to the Fear Factor live stage, which was used for Halloween Nightmare Field Wildfire for 2022. Once entering the line, guests were required to walk around Men in Black Alien Attack in a non-guest area of Universal Studios. After walking around the ride building, the queue would turn into a switchback queue until team members managing the line would direct guests into the house. I find Sprung Tent 2 houses to be pretty annoying. As Sprung Tent 1 houses, you just have to walk next to Men in Black Alien Attack, but that's a topic for another time. After taking a long walk through the queue, guests approach the haunted house. A 1950s billboard advertises to guests a new pesticide, which states, "The future is now," in red, followed by a mascot with the name of the pesticide, B-side. To the right of the mascot, a blue list states the following benefits of the pesticide: kills pests safely, cools the home, purifies your air. The billboard also includes BZCon Industries branding at the bottom. After passing the billboard, guests walk through an outdoor hallway with 1950s TVs advertising the pesticide. The advertisements explain why bugs are such a pain to control, as they reproduce way too fast. This company claims that their pesticide makes bugs age faster by speeding up their aging, or as in what the company says, their growth. Guests would soon learn that this statement should be taken literally, as the bugs grow in size rather than age. The house officially begins with a demo room for the new pesticide spray. Through this, we learn the name of the spray, Exterminator, which the presenter of the new product, Sandra, is showing off in the room. The AC control panel looking device pumps out the Exterminator, but things go quickly south as an alarm goes off and the lights dim, signaling an issue with the new product on display. Guests enter the next room and find themselves in a backstage area of the pavilion. A scientist quickly jumps out and brushes off her arms, signaling that there are bugs crawling around. She looks up at the guest and says, "Get off of me!" After passing the scientist, a series of glass dome cases are filled with bugs. one of which has a spider popping out at guest. And our first phobia is introduced. Arachnophobia, the fear of spiders. I guess technically we could say the first fear is aneptophobia, the fear of insects, since the mascot B-side is an insect. But he's friendly, look, he's smiling. Anyway, this all doesn't matter because in a few seconds, guess what's seeing not so friendly insects in the chemical testing room. Wait, go back for a second. Is that a small cluster of holes on the security guard's face? It looks like we have encountered the secret phobia that no one was expecting, trypophobia, the fear of small repetitive holes. This will be a sub-theme moving forward in the house, so let's move on into the chemical room. Before officially entering the room, a technician would pop out at guests from behind the glowing windows, with bugs crawling all over them. A red sign alerts the guests that the next room is dangerous, and it's a good warning because this room was terrifying. The room, which was dark outside of a red dimming light, would blast air puffs at you, simulating bugs crawling all over you. After this, it appears we return back into the official pavilion as guests enter the model living room, but it's covered in ants. A scientist would jump out with holes on their face, followed by another scientist screaming with even more holes on their face. The model continues with the kitchen, and nothing much happens in here outside of a jump scare from a giant fly. And I just have to say, the costume design for this is fantastic. I think it's a very well designed room from a look standpoint. It really shows how much the bugs are taking over. The next room in the model home was the bedroom. As guests walked in, they were immediately taunted by an insect larvae. This room was disgusting, but it's really just a build up to the next major room, the attic. But before guests get there, they have to walk through a long hallway where a giant wasp jumps out at them. I think the highlight of this house was the attic outside of the final room. When you walk in, the whole room is covered in spider webs. A janitor with spider eggs attached to him pops out next to a giant spider and says, "Inside of me." Which the idea of spiders hatching inside of you is a nightmare fuel. After leaving the attic, guests return to the back rooms of BzzCon, where we meet Sandra again. However, this time she is holding an axe, and in a threatening tone says, "I'll cut them off," as she attempts to release the bugs from the chambers. After passing Sandra, guests walk by a honeycomb wall, and a scientist pops out at them with missing hair and holes covering their face. The final room featured a massive spider that guests walked under to exit the house through the final hallway. Before walking through, the last scientist pops out, and then guests enter the final hallway. Once entering the final hallway, glowing eggs scatter throughout. An army general jumps out at the final scare, ordering troops to target the bugs. That is the entire house of bugs eaten alive. I remember being really creeped out by this house, which I think was the overall goal. Not the scariest house overall, but scary in a way that's more relatable, tapping into the fear of bugs. Next week's video will be about the 2023 Halloween Horror Nights house, The Darkest Deal. In the meantime, YouTube has selected the best next video for you. Thanks for watching.